Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. So this is the Q&A video for the 5 and 6,000 subscriber special. And before we start, I just want to give a huge thanks for the amazing support throughout the past year and a half. So for this Q&A session, you guys asked questions over on the YouTube post comments and over on Twitter as well. So we'll get started with those in a moment. I just want to say that the clips that you'll be seeing in this video are a couple of friendly races that I did with a couple of teammates and friends. So let's go ahead and get this Q&A started. So the first question comes from Silviu, hopefully I'm saying that name right, and he asks, hey, for how long have you been playing GT Sport and what is your DR and SR in this game? So I started playing GT Sport when the beta came out, and I still remember a couple of the races. I should have their footage somewhere. I'll have to look for that and make a video on it someday. And that was pretty fun, and I played it for a while, and I eventually took a small break from GT Sport and eventually came back on it, and that's when I eventually started doing YouTube for this game. My DR is sitting at 68,000 points and my SR is at 99. The next question comes from XYYZ, and they ask, I just won my first FII race from pole thanks to your lap guide. How long did it take you to win your first online race, and were you ever at a point where you thought it might not ever happen? First of all, congratulations on your win in the FIA race. So for me, I actually got my first win in Gran Turismo Sport during the beta days, but after I did a couple more races, that's when I noticed that I was getting less and less wins. That's when I started having either a lot of shenanigans happen to me, or the cars that were around me, they were just outpacing me. So I did have moments where I thought I was never going to win in this game, but eventually, as I slowly got better at this game, I just started getting a bit more wins. So that gave me some hope that, okay, I think I'm finally making some progress in this game. So definitely don't give up and just keep going at it, keep practicing, and you'll eventually start to see those wins. So the next question comes from William F. How do you find your brake bias for the car, and on what your brake bias choice is based on? Thank you, keep up your great content. So when it comes to brake bias, I tend to keep the following in mind. For front engine rear-wheel drive cars, you can bring the brake balance either a bit to the back or to the front of the car. This one, it depends a bit more on the track you're on and the car that you're in. So for example, if you're in the GR Super Racing concept and you're racing at Spa, the car tends to step out a little bit under hard braking, so you might want to bring the brake balance towards the front of the car. So the mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars, I tend to bring the brake bias towards the front of the car as well, although there are a few cars that can kind of have an exception to this rule, like the Porsche 911 RSR. That one you can get away with bringing the brake balance 1 point towards the rear of the car. Front wheel drives, bring the brake balance all the way to the back of the car, and the same goes with four-wheel drives. And for rear engine rear-wheel drives, bring the brake balance all the way to the front of the car. So once again, this depends on the track that you're in, your driving style, and the car that you're in, so you can always adjust it to a brake balance that you find to be comfortable. Fast Trooper asks, hi Mista, always love your vids and making my time go down. How did you get really interested in racing, and when did you start racing? Greetings from Malaysia. So I ended up getting interested in racing games when I was little, just because I had the Nintendo, so I'd be playing Mario Kart or NASCAR 99, and that was where I started to get a bit of interest in racing. But in terms of watching real life racing, I never actually got a big interest in it when I was growing up. Usually because by the time the race in NASCAR would start, I'd have to go to church, and I always tried staying so I can watch the cars go race around, but I was never able to. I always ended up getting dragged to church. But that interest in racing games slowly expanded over time. Eventually went from Mario Kart and NASCAR 99 to Gran Turismo, Then eventually that went over to Need for Speed, Midnight Club, and then back to Gran Turismo again when I ended up getting the PlayStation 4. But it wasn't like a huge interest all of a sudden. It was kind of just like a long, slow process that took many years. And I think with Gran Turismo Sport, this was the first time where I really showed a big interest in racing in general. Their Sir asks, "Hey Mista, I am really happy about your success and hope the race continues. Thank you very much. My question is, when did you start with racing games, and what games did you enjoy when starting, and when did you recognize that you are so darn quick?" So as I said in the last question, I started my racing game journey with Mario Kart 64 and NASCAR 99, mostly just messing around, going the wrong way and crashing into other cars because that's what 5-year-old me did. But eventually that ended up going over to other racing games like Gran Turismo, a bit of Forza, Midnight Club, and so on and so forth. And when did I realize that I got so quick? That's really hard for me to pinpoint. I've been playing this game for so long, and my time the time that I've spent improving in this game has also been so long. I just can't exactly pinpoint when when I realized that I got quick. But if I were to at least try to narrow it down, I would say somewhere between mid to late 2018 was where I realized that I was starting to get fast. Next up is from Dorian Smith. "So you deserve all your subs. Your videos are really well put together and have really helped my results recently. Question is, do you have a favorite track and car combination on GT Sport? Keep up the good work. I really appreciate it." Alright, so first of all, thank you for the awesome support. My favorite track and car combination was actually a daily race that happened a long time ago. I think this was around early 2018, if I remember correctly. Not too sure exactly when it happened, but it was at Monza with the chicane with the Aston Martin Vulcan. This was actually a daily A race, so we ended up having racing hard tires equipped, but either way the car was still so hard to handle. I was still on the controller back then, so it was quite a bit of a car to handle, but for some reason I just found a combination so fun, and I ended up getting a decent time where I was qualifying near the front. And that's when I ended up just having a bunch of really fun races, even though we kept on entering Punt City on turn 1 and just kept on getting punted into oblivion. JD Walker asks, "Have you ever had a chance to run a car around a racetrack in real life? If so, which car and where?" I haven't had the chance to do this yet, but it's something that I definitely want to do. Hopefully within the next 5 years. That's what I'm looking forward to doing. I do have Laguna Seca and Infineon Raceway not too far from here, so I'm not sure which one I'll go to first, but whichever one I go to, it'll definitely be a really fun day. Tony asks, "Some tips for pad players will be helpful. Pad players have excessive tire wear in general. Great guides, by the way. Came here from Super GT's channel." So I haven't used the pad or the controller in quite some time now, but what I can say is that one of the things that you really have to do, whether you're on the controller or on the wheel, is to be as smooth as you can, especially when it comes to your turning ability. If you're nice and smooth, you'll have a better time taking care of your tires, so your tires will last a little bit longer. I did ask PX7 Lab, who's one of the best players in North America and uses a controller. I asked him for his settings, and he did say that he has the controller sensitivity on 7, so I will give that a try and see if that helps you out, especially when it comes to the tire wear. Zolt asks, "How long does it take to learn to drive without traction control? I know it's silly, but I'm still struggling. Are you using different setups for every single car, for example, the ABS and traction control and so on?" So for turning off traction control, it actually took me quite a bit of a while to learn how to drive the car without that assist on. I would say it took me anywhere between 2 to 4 months, and I started with traction control at 3, then brought it down to 2, and I stayed there for a while, then eventually brought it down to 1, stayed there for a while, then eventually brought it down to 0, and just tried to get really used to the cars, how they react if you apply a little bit too much throttle, and learning how to control all of that. As for the ABS, I leave it on default as that is the fastest way to help your car go around the track, which is a bit weird. So I don't have it on weak or off. ABS is always on default. And I always have the setting for every car under every track and every condition, even on the wet tracks. The next question comes from Piolo. How long have you been playing Gran Turismo games, and how did you get in contact with the esports team inside the game? So I've been playing Gran Turismo ever since Gran Turismo 2, so what was that, the late 90s, over on the PlayStation 1. And the only Gran Turismo games that I haven't played are 5 and 6 because at that point I actually had an Xbox, so I was playing a bit of Forza games, mostly Call of Duty, so that's not racing related. And how did I get in contact with Phoenix 7? I remember, I think what started the connection was during one of the FI races. I was racing one of the Team Phoenix esports members. That's what we were called back in the day, by the way. So I remember I was racing with one of them, and we ended up having a pretty good race. And that's when one of their teammates ended up contacting me, and we kind of just started talking, and eventually they ended up asking me to be part of the team. So that's how I ended up joining Team Phoenix Esports, which is now Phoenix 7. Mercedes asks, have you thought about other content besides lap guides? Gran Turismo Racing, that's coming back. I should have that video up not too long after this video goes up. And as for content for other games, I am not sure yet. I have joked around with the idea of doing content with Euro Truck Simulator and American Truck Simulator, but that one's kind of just like a joke idea. But content for other games, I'm not sure about that. I know I've been asked about making videos for Assetto Corsa Competizione when that comes out on the PS4, but I'm not too sure about that. That one I'm kind of just going to leave it at a wait and see and just see what happens. I have thought about getting the game when it comes out, but once again, I'm just not sure if I'll be making videos for that game. Alexis Mignon asks, why are you so quick with your lap guide? I do exactly the same, but I am 1 or 1.5 seconds behind you. I would say to check your entry and exit speeds, so even though you might be doing the same exact thing that I'm doing, if you're going a little bit slower than I am when you're entering or exiting a turn, then that's going to cost you a little bit of time. There could be a lot of things that could be causing that 1.5 second gap between you and I, but that's just one thing that you can check, and if you're able to get that nailed down, then you'll obviously end up a bit closer to me. This is Iceman is asking, hi Mister, congrats on your recent success. My question will be, would you do gaming live stream anytime soon? Any chance of you doing ACC guides in the near future? I haven't done a live stream in a while. I remember doing a couple of test ones quite some time ago. So I haven't done a live stream ever since, but I have thought of picking back up on that. I'm just not exactly sure when, just because of the living situation over here isn't exactly suitable for live streaming, but if I can find something out, then I'll definitely start doing that again. As for the ACC guide, so Assetto Corsa Competizione, that one's a wait and see. I'm thinking about getting it on the PS4, but I'm still not sure yet, still not 100% if I'm going to get it. And if I do get it, I will try it out for a bit and see if I can see myself making videos for that game. Saitama CDA is asking, how long did it take you to get as quick as you are now? I would say over 2 years, especially going at the pace I am now. It probably took pretty much all of the lifespan of Gran Turismo Sport for me to be as fast as I am now. Pure Trick asks, what are your top things that you would like to see in Gran Turismo 7? So one of the things that I would like to see in Gran Turismo 7 is a way to kind of like do our own video editor thing on the replay system. Something like how Gran Turismo 5 does it, where you can really move the camera as your car moves along, just to make really awesome replays along with the awesome replay system that the game already has on Gran Turismo Sport. So if there's a way to improve on that and even implements like a free moving camera, then that'll make this replay system a lot better. That, and please add the 1969 Pontiac GT to judge, because that will make the game a perfect 10 out of 10 for me and fix the penalty system. But anyways, the next question comes from David. How do you maintain work-life GT balance? Do you set aside a set amount of time and set time to practice and race? As for the work-life and Gran Turismo balance, yeah, I don't really have one. The thing is that the part that takes up so much time is the editing, because there have been endless number of nights where I have been up until 6 in the morning and had to go to work or just do whatever the next morning, which was like an hour or two later. So there were quite a few nights where I was barely getting any sleep at all, if I was lucky. But the thing is that the coronavirus pandemic has thrown a wrench in the works, as that ended up making me lose my job. So I've pretty much just been doing YouTube ever since I lost my job, which is why I decided, okay, let's just do Nations Cup again. So I have a lot more time on my hands now. Can't really do much outside of home because everything is still under the stay-at-home orders over here. So pretty much all I do now is just Gran Turismo Sport, exercise, and YouTube, and sleep. At least I get a little bit more sleep now. As for setting up the time, I just try to give myself as much time out of the day to, at least for the daily lap guides, try to get a good time for all 3 daily races, because there are some combinations where it takes me less than an hour to get the time that I want, and for some it takes me quite a while to get the lap time that I want, and then I have to go edit all that stuff out, and that ends up taking a while. The next question comes from Agustin, and he asks, I have one question. When you start practicing for a certain race, do you go crazy finding the limits from the start, or do you slowly go learning the breaking points and everything? Thanks again, Grace from Uruguay, and everyone from Uruguay Racing Team, thanks for your videos. So when it comes to, say, doing the daily race guides, that one, it depends if we've done that track and car combination before. So let's say if it's Lago Major GP with the Group 3 cars, that one I tend to already have an idea of where I need to brake and accelerate and all that good stuff. So for that one, when I start doing its daily race, I already have an idea of what to do, so I start to push a little bit more earlier on. However, if it's a daily race combination that I have never done before, or if it's one that hasn't been done in a long time, so let's say for example Super Formula at Laguna Seca, that one has never been done before in the daily race. So for that one, I take my time going through it, so I go through the track a lot slower, just trying to learn how late I can brake, when I should accelerate, when I should turn in, and all that good stuff. And also tell Uruguay Racing Team I said hello. The next question comes from Jordan Peter, and he asked, just like someone requested before me, I would like to learn more about your training routine too. How much do you practice every day, and how much does it help to be in a racing team on that matter? In terms of practicing for a race, that one wildly varies. A lot of it just depends on the truck and car combination that we're using for that race. So sometimes it can take me, let's say 30 minutes just to get an idea of what I need to do in that track with the car that I'm in. But sometimes if it's like a harder combination or a combination that I'm not too comfortable with, it can take me quite a few hours just to be able to get the time that I want. And if we're talking about races where the fuel and tire wear are on, it takes me a little bit longer just because I'm trying to find out which strategies are potentially the best ones. As for being in a team, it helps quite a bit when you're trying to find out which cars are the best for a certain track or which strategies are the best. So sometimes they tend to know right away which of these things are the best. So sometimes I'll ask them, hey, what's the best car to use at this track? And they'll usually answer me right away. So it helps narrow things down, and it saves me a bit of time just trying to test things out. That and just being on the team itself, I think that has helped me become an even faster driver without really realizing it until recently. So that, I mean, it definitely makes my life a little bit easier, especially when I'm trying to record the footage or the time trial stuff for the videos. Matt Leslie is asking, of all the FIA races you've done, what is your most favorite and why? The first one that came up in my head right now is the N300 race over at Lago Maggiore East, just because I had a really close race and I did make a video out of it, so I'll link it in the card up above if you want to watch it. The next question comes from ERT Noodles, and he asks, what's your favorite GT Sport moment? First of all, that's a really nice name, but my favorite GT Sport moment has to do with really close finishes. So if you're racing with someone and you all finish within a couple of tenths of a second, or if there's multiple people racing with you that finish within a couple of tenths of a second within each other, I think those moments are really awesome just because we get a really close finish and it's intense all the way to the end of the race. I mean, I remember having a couple of those moments and it had me so excited. You know, I was kind of just like shaking with excitement and nervousness. So, I mean, if that's not the best moment within GT Sport, then I don't know what is. The next question comes from Fabio, and he asks, what was the first console game, racing game you've played, and what's your dream car to own one day? So my first console was the Nintendo Game Boy Color. My first game was the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX, and my first racing game was Mario Kart 64. My dream car that I would absolutely love to own one day is the 1969 Pontiac GTO The Judge. That car is absolutely beautiful, and I still remember the first time I saw one in person, I ended up crying. Yeah. The next question comes from Daniel and McKelvey, and they ask for my favorite track in Gran Turismo Sport, and that one is easily Laguna Seca, just because that one is near home, and of course you get to go through the corkscrew, which is awesome and terrifying at the same time. The next question comes from Emils ST14, and he asks, maybe you could do your favorite cars in Gran Turismo Sport. So the Aston Martin Vulcan is definitely one of my favorite cars because it looks cool, it's a bit of a meme car, and it's a good challenge to drive. The 2019 Toyota Supra, just because I did really well in last year's Super Cup. And as for my favorite Group 4 and 3 cars, those instantly are, or my instant answers for those are the Vipers. The next question comes from Yong Lin, and he asks, which Group 3 car is your favorite and which car do you drive in daily? So my favorite Group 3 car, as I said in the question before this one, is the Dodge Viper. I like to call it and the Group 4 Viper the Danger Noodles, just because the names of the models are named after snakes. And which car I drive in daily, so assuming you mean daily races, I usually just go with the meta car, so whichever car is the best for that track, or strategy wise, if there's a car that fits perfectly with a strategy, then I go with that car. The next question comes from Andrew, and he asks, what is the most difficult strategy guide you remember making? That one is really easy for me to answer because the answer for that is Group 2 at Altopolis, and it's going to be a daily race for this coming week, so I'm not looking forward to it. For some reason, I was struggling so much to try to get a good time with the NSX, if I remember. So it ended up taking me like a solid 8 hours just to try to get a decent time. Yeah, so I don't know exactly what made me struggle so much on that track, but it just took me so long just to get a good time. And I remember when I was done with it, I don't know, I was just so done with it. The next question comes from Werner, Matt, and Elbow Cop. So they ask for tips to try to get rid of the last second to catch up to me. And that's a really good question, and also it's a hard question for me to answer because there could be many things that could be adding little bits of time that eventually add up to that extra second. So I remember mentioning early in the Q&A to check the exit or the entry and exit speeds, as entering or exiting a turn just a little bit slower can add up a little bit of time, and considering how many turns there are in the track, that can quickly add up. And another thing is to try to be confident in the car that you're using, kind of just like build a relationship and trust with that car, so you know what to do, when to do it, and you'll know that the car won't try to spin out on you or anything like that. And I know Elbow Cop asked for 3 tips, so the third one is to try to drive as smoothly as possible. Just try not to be too sudden, too erratic with your inputs. That way the car can stay under your control at all times, so you can really get the most out of the car that you're using. And before I go to the next question, I just want to say thank you for the awesome messages that you guys have been leaving on Twitter and YouTube in the comments. They really make my day a lot better. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly say that. But let's go ahead and go on to the next question. So the next question comes from Charlie, and he asks, what tips would you offer to a beginner? So 3 tips, or actually 4 tips, is 1, to get to know the car. So each car acts in a different way, so you want to try to figure out how a car reacts when you use certain inputs. So if the car starts to step out when you accelerate early out of a turn, you want to be a bit more careful about the throttle input. Or if you know that a car is a handling car, then you know you can push a bit more when you're going through some of the twistier bits of the track. Then the second part is to get to know the track, so getting to know the racing line, looking for reference points that you can use as braking points, accelerating points, or even turning points, as that will help you be able to shave off a bit more time. The third tip is to not be afraid of using driving assist. So especially if you're starting out in the racing game genre, and let's say if Gran Turismo Sport is your first racing game, don't be afraid about using traction control and stability and all that good stuff, just because your goal is to keep the car under your control at all times. However, if you do want to get faster in the game, you will have to eventually turn those off. So the first thing that I personally did was slowly turn off traction control, then turn off stability management, and I think actually for me, I never had counter steering assist on, so that was already one thing that I had out of the way. But if you want to get faster, just take your time slowly turning off the assist, because you do not want to rush it, because if you try to rush it, then you're going to be spinning out all the time. And the fourth one, trail braking, so easing off the brakes as you turn in. I always say that in the lap guides, because if you do trail braking, that means that you can brake a little bit later compared to those who don't trail brake at all. You can still slow down while you're turning in, and you'll be able to shave off a bit more time that way. The next question comes from Gearza, and he asks, what motivated you to start making a YouTube channel? So I remember making this channel quite a long time ago because I was really interested in making Call of Duty videos, and I think it was around the time that Black Ops 1 was out. I found out that I was okay at the game. Every now and then I'd get like a really good game where I was just messing people's days up on Nuketown or on firing range. And I was watching a bunch of Call of Duty videos during that time as well. So that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to grab my pretty old camera, record a TV and the replay of the game, and just show how awesome I am at the game. Yeah, that video never really got any views, but that was what made me start a YouTube channel. As for making Gran Turismo Sport content, I know I've had the thought of making lap guide videos for quite some time, but I never really acted on it. So then I told myself, hey, for my resolution in 2019, I'm going to start making these guides and see how that pans out. And Well, here we are. I think that resolution ended up working out really well for me. The next question comes from Alberto Grande, and he asks, how badly do you want to pump Max? Very badly. So for those who don't know, he's referring to God Max Power. So I race with him every now and then. He's really fast. He's sometimes a little bit faster than my pace, but usually we're around the same pace, and we tend to have some really good races together. And I'm actually surprised that we haven't punted each other off yet. Matuz, hopefully I'm saying your name right, asks, when will you give us the opportunity to support your channel? You can click on subscribe to support the channel, but I have been working on making a Patreon. It's just that it takes me it's been taking me a billion years just to try to get that up because I don't really know what I'm doing. But I should be close to finishing it up, so I'll have more details on that in the near future. And I'll also be setting up the YouTube's membership page, since I think that's similar to Patreon, so I'll have that up as well at a future date. The next question comes from Mikhail, and he asks, what's the best Super of all time? That's an easy one, the MK4, and the top 5 anime list. Oh god, I do not know where to start with the top 5 anime list. I'll just say off the top of my head, in no particular order, Kill la Kill, Overlord, Attack on Titan, Mob Psycho 100, and Konosuba. And an honorable mention goes out to Kaguya-sama Love is War. So the next question comes from Niels Jorgensen and Alberto Grande, and they ask if hot dogs are sandwiches. If not, why? So I ended up having a quarter-life crisis over this question. So after a lot of thinking and staying up very late at night, just thinking about this question, and I'm going to say that hot dogs are weird sandwiches. The next question comes from Gears, and he asks for the best waifu, and that's an easy one. It's Ryuko from Kill la Kill. Sorry Gears, it's not Nene. He also did ask if I'm going to branch out into other games. I'm not sure yet. I have thought about doing Assetto Corsa Competizione and Euro Truck / American Truck Simulator as a joke, but I'm not too sure about that yet. The next question comes from Dodge Lamb and Girza, and they ask, why is Lamb so freaking cute and why Rando be looking like a snack? I'm scared to answer this question, so moving on. The next question comes from my friend Patty L Cubed, and he asks, okay, so the QnA session is officially ending right now. Okay, I'm just kidding about that, but we do have a couple of people asking for a tour of my setup, so I'm going to show that, not my face because I'm really camera shy. So we'll go ahead and show my setup, which I like to call the Harry Potter room. So I had to voice record after this recording session because my mic on the camera is bad. So this is the Harry Potter room, and the chair that I use right here, it's just a regular office chair, nothing too crazy. The wheel that I have is a Logitech G29, same goes with the pedals, and it's all stock, so I have not modded the wheel or the pedals in any way. The wheel is sitting on a moving platform, so this is just because I barely have any space in my room. So when I want to use it, I bring the wheel closer to me, and when I want to put it away, I can just push the platform forward. The keyboard that I'm going to show in a moment is wireless because everything is compact, obviously. So I put the keyboard on the platform. The computer is hanging out in the shelf behind. The PlayStation, as you saw, is on the cart. And when I want to put the wheel away, I can just unattach it and put it on the shelf up above. And the keyboard will end up on that platform if I need to do computer stuff. The mouse is hanging out under the platform, and it's just a regular mouse, nothing too special. So if I need to do computer stuff, I have the keyboard on the platform and the mouse down below. It's a little weird, but you get used to it. So the Asus, that's my monitor, and the PC behind is attached to the monitor along with the PlayStation. And the microphone that I use and that you're hearing my voice from is this sucker right here, the Blue Snowball Ice. Really low price, and it has done me lots of justice. So in a moment we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing, which are my cute little keychains of Ryuko from Kill la Kill and Mercy from Overwatch that my best friend gave me for my birthday. So in a moment we're just going to move on to the next thing. Nothing special there, it's just a bunch of external hard drives, and we have the controller connected to a bunch of cords, and this is just so I can record my stuff. I have a white cable so I can attach my headset and the controller to the recording device, which I'll show in a moment. And all that's hanging out behind, so in a moment we're going to go ahead and go on over. So this is my PC. This is an iBuyPower. It's a pre-built one because I really needed a new computer since my old laptop was running slower than a snail. And in a moment I'm going to show what I record with, everything that it is all connected to. It's an Elgato HD60S, and I got this one just before I started making the Gran Turismo Sport videos, so there it is right there. It's been doing a lot of hard work and it has been doing me justice. And just a while ago you saw that I do lots of art. Here are my books and my favorite mask, the Mask of Majora. Some say that my face looks like the Mask of Majora. And here are my collectibles from Legend of Zelda, Konosuba, and Overwatch. And I think the software is just as important of the setup. So here's my desktop, it looks pretty cool. So we'll quickly go on over my software. So I use InDesign for making the strategy charts. This is really easy for me to adjust the strategies and input whatever I need to put in to share with you all. And I have it for the Super Cup, daily races. I even have the templates, so anything relating to strategies, I have it here on this InDesign file. The next thing we'll show is the capture card software. So I use the Elgato software to record whatever I need to record, and I click on that cute little red button so I can start recording or end the recording. So we'll go on over to the next thing, which is Photoshop. So this is where I make all the thumbnails for the daily race lap guides, the FIA guides, or even other things like the racing series. And going over to the next thing, which is the bread and butter of everything, the Premiere Pro. So this is where I do all the video editing, and it can get messy at times. And this is where I also do the voice recording, and where sometimes it takes me a billion years just to try to record one little line. Yeah, so the green bars are the voice recordings, the blue are the game footage, and the purple are captions and everything else that I add that are not related to voice recordings or the game footage itself. And last but not least, every now and then I make decals on Gran Turismo Sport to put on the cars, and I just like to show this off. Every now and then I make a decal just because I think it'll look cool on someone's car for their livery or my livery. And that is pretty much it for the setup and for the Q&A video. It has been a lot of fun just reading through your questions, answering them all, and I just want to give you all a huge amazing thank you for the amazing love and support on this channel for the past year and a half. This has been an amazing journey, and I can't wait to see where this journey takes us all. But once again, just thank you all for the amazing love and support, and it is time for me to sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA wishing you all a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.